So here we are. You think my mic's good?
Yeah, it's perfect. Hey everybody, how you doing? It's John Brewer here, and we're going to do another episode of Brews with Brewer, and I am very, very happy to have with me Mr. Bill Bathurst.
Cheers. I am great. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too, man. Thanks so much for swinging by my humble abode. And
I love this place. This is classic Delray. I mean, I love this house. This is all what we all grew up with around here, right?
Yes. So this is your 1,800 square foot, 1958 built.
Perfect.
10,000 plus square foot property in the Lake Ida area.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. We love it. It's probably a knockdown technically from everything that's going on in our neighborhood right now. And maybe you'd like to chime in a little bit about, so those who don't know, Bill is a commissioner. He's also a real estate agent. That's how we know each other. We actually met each other when I came back in 2010. We didn't know each other in high school. Mm-mm. I think you graduated a little before I got in there.
78.
Yeah, 78. I was 83.
Yeah, so you don't know people who are 10 when you're 15.
No. It's like a whole different generation almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so what do you think is going on in Delray right now? And what do you see as far as real estate goes right now?
Well, hey, I love watching your podcast. That's how I wake up every morning and go, hey, when's the Lake Ida report coming on? And I love all the facts you give. It's just a nice thing to listen to.
Thank you.
But we all know that we're really going through a resurgence right now.
Yeah.
Right. It's where a lot of houses like this, unfortunately, get torn down. I mean, some people save them. If they're more unique and eclectic, they're more apt to be saved, right? Or people will add on to them. It's like, oh my gosh, that's such a cool house. I don't want to tear it down. If it's really just a ranch style, a lot of times they're gone. And some of the ranches are on such big lots. Guess what they're doing? They're buying the lots and maybe splitting it into two houses. We've all seen that, right?
Right.
Where if they have that, and of course our land development regulations set aside, it's got to be either 50 or 75 or 100 feet, frontage, depending on where it is, if it's R1 AA. But yeah, what we're seeing is, totally new houses. We think about houses like this that were $300,000-$400,000 not that long ago,
right? And
they tear them down, and what do they build? What are the prices of the builds today?
Well, it's pretty much most new product is coming into the market about 1.6 right now, and I'm sure that number's starting to climb now because we just got new numbers out, and the market went up another 3%.
The market went up again,
and as mortgage rates gone down, we're at 3-month lows again. You know what? This guy's making noise. Keep going. Talk to the people.
Yeah. So John's over there dealing with one of the puppies, and I think he's either going to let him in or, here he comes. He's got some great dogs. But yeah, the mortgage rates have gone down. So what does that mean? People have more buying power for a house, and so they can the house prices can go up a little bit. But
we also have an inventory issue, right?
A huge inventory issue. And everything's about supply and demand. And when there's only a couple houses in your price bracket, you have a house come into the Lake Ida area, like remarkably under 500. It's gone in a heartbeat because people figure out what they're going to do with it. And there's really not that many of those anymore. On the south side, you'll see a couple, down near Infield and Sunshine and those streets. But if it's a good sized lot, the last one I sold, it was really for a lot. I think it was 767th Street.
I remember that.
It was sold, I think, in the sevens.
Right, it did.
The sevens, and it had a beautiful lot, unique lot, but it's amazing what we're getting for these.
So I just noticed a sale the other day that went on, and it's probably one of the first sales I've seen under $1 million that was like your classic Lake Ida, and it actually went on 3rd Avenue over there, that side street when you go off Grove.
Right, okay.
It's one of those offshoots. It's a dead end, nice quiet street. We know the folks that live at the end, Matt and Ari. New Year's Eve, we had a great little block party there, but that home went for $9,000 and it got sucked up in 4 days. And it was one of those where it's on like a 12,000 square foot lot.
Good size lot.
It was an old classic, but it was like 2,500 square feet.
Right.
But it had been totally updated. Wooden floors, classic look, not the great room that everybody's looking for. But then again, it was priced right. It was under $1 million. And it's the first one of those I've seen. And I think those are really becoming more and more rare because the folks that are moving in here are either looking for that knockdown in the 550, 6 zone, or they want the brand new product.
Or they want the brand new. I tell everybody we live in instant gratificationville. Instant gratificationville is where I don't want to have to fix anything up because I'm not real handy. I'm from the city.
Right.
And so they like things done. So, you come into a new house and they don't want to have to do anything.
Right.
There is that, the we call them, I don't always like the name flippers, but the people who restore houses. And there's a place.
Value add.
There's a place in the market for them because they can buy a house, fix it up, and then they can sell it to somebody who is not somebody who would fix it up. So, but you have to be real careful. And you've seen this before, and I've heard this on your podcast or your vlog. You call it a vlog?
I don't know. It's Facebook Live.
Facebook Live.
I screwed around with different things on YouTube, and I just found I got the most eyeballs when I did it that way. Yeah,
Facebook Live's great.
And I did on my personal page. I was doing it on my business page, Lake Ida Inventory Expert, and I just wasn't getting the views, but I went back to Facebook Live, and then I post it usually at night on the other one. And yeah, I usually get over 100 and some odd views, and a lot of people see it. And it seems like every time we go out, someone's like, hey man, I like it. Or
we'll talk a little bit about music later, but I'll tell you something. I did a Facebook Live, or we did a Facebook Live. And if just perchance you happen to have a radio on in the background and it picks up that algorithm that it's or trademark music or whatever, your video will disappear amazingly. and so be careful. So I used to film a lot of stuff on my regular film on my camera and then load it to Facebook instead of Facebook Live because it disappeared.
Yeah.
But the thing I was talking about the flipping of the houses, people will buy a house that looks kind of like this, and what's the dilemma? It's in the middle, right? Do I pour a bunch of money and put new whatever kind of floors in and an all new kitchen, or is it a tear down? And there's that break point where some people, let's say you have a house for sale and they've done everything to it, and it's beautiful, but it's still an old house,
right?
And what there's some people that like it, or they like their old, the ranches. They like, if it's historic, and we'll talk more about that later. Sometimes they love the wooden floors or the cathedral ceilings or something. But sometimes you can put too much money into a middle range house and you don't get it back.
Yeah. So you see a lot of houses like that. I see them too that come on the market, and they've been somewhat updated. But the kitchen might be like rectangular, or you look at it and you're like, something's not right.
It's got to be opened up.
And you're not going to get and I think that's one of the biggest decisions that homeowners need to make when they go to improve a home is, are you going to get the value out of it? We put the pool in the back, and it was worth it. We've gotten 6 years out of it. I go in that thing at least 3 times a day in the summertime. Yep. This time of year it stinks. Like people say, you shovel snow up north this time of year. Well, you clean your pool this time of year.
And you don't
all
use
the
it.
Mangoes. I had hay fever the last couple of weeks ago. All the mango trees are falling in there, so I'm out there every day scooping everything out of there.
Yeah.
But like I said, the value, $30,000 for that is worth it. I don't care if they bulldoze this place when it, But we've thought about doing other things to our home here. And you got to weigh it. Weigh it. I put in a sink. My wife wanted a new sink, so we put that in. Yeah, it's not a lot of money, but do you want to? I don't know. We thought about going another story up or something like that.
Yeah. What do you want to do?
You're not going to get the value out of it.
Well,
I don't think.
My wife and I, we have a really small house, and when our 2 sons, who are now 27,
you're in Delray Lakes, right?
Yeah, I'm in Delray Lakes, and we're actually going through a major landscaping program right now. I'll tell you more about that, but. We kept looking for other places to buy because like, oh, it's too small. And then, boy, kids grow up fast, right? And suddenly they're, by the time they're 15, 16, they're gone. Right. If they're still in school, they start, my one son started water polo at 5:30 in the morning and he'd be home out till 7, and then they're off in their own apartments in college. So now we have this house that was smaller, but it's perfect for the 2 of us.
Right.
So it's working out. But yeah, you don't want to over improve, and that's a thing, because a lot of times, even when we're selling houses, people will say, should I redo the floors before I list it or whatever? And I go, this is a tear down,
right?
And they really can't get in that mentality that it is. So,
sorry about the dogs. That's what happens when you do live stuff. And
by the way, the Brewer beer is very good.
This is an IPA. I made this about a month ago, and like I said, it's. I try not to get too fancy with it. It's great. There's only so many ways to make a good ham sandwich.
That's
so
right.
That's it.
Simplicity is the key to life.
That's it. So this is a good little IPA. So let me ask you this: it seems like the dynamics of Delray are kind of shifting in general with the demographics. It seems like we're getting a lot of younger money from up north. You know, I know that there's a guy who moved in recently, well, a couple of years ago, and they were thinking about moving to Jupiter. They knew they wanted to move to Florida because of the whole tax situation. They knew they wanted to get out of, they were in New York, and they wanted to come down here, and they were looking at Jupiter, and they just thought Jupiter was a little sleepy for them.
Yep.
And they just started Googling. And the next thing you know, Delray Beach came up.
Yep.
And so they're coming in here now, and it's kind of a different vibe.
Yep.
And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and what you think about that.
The thing that you just said, actually, I know a couple of examples of that. And I'll tell the audience here while you're dealing with the dog again. In and out.
Let me in, I want to go out.
You know, I work for NV Realty, which is part of the Nicholas Group, right? Nicholas Vance Realty. We used to be Golden Bear Realty, and we deal with a lot of golfers. And so, not that I always get their deals, but I know of 2 golfers, professional golfers who live in Delray over in the Seagate neighborhood. And both of them, when you move from wherever you move from, Ohio or Michigan, and you're a professional golfer, you move to Jupiter. You move to PGA Boulevard, you move to North Palm, you know, the Golden Bear Plaza, you know, all the PGAs up there. But they're young guys. And it only took them about a year until they sold up there and they moved down here because of the avenue and the vibrancy of Delray. You know, for a different the beaches for a different generation, and for people who want a little bit slower, Jupiter and you know is great. But if they really want that vibrancy that we have now in our little village by the sea, you know, that's what this younger group that has the money to pay for these homes is looking for, and it's pretty unique. You know, you can't really replicate it anywhere up and down the coast.
Right.
It's not the same. We have a main street that leads to the ocean. You know, I'm a big village by the sea guy. I'm trying to hang on as tight as I can. We still have a lot of projects coming on that are going to make it even bigger, and that's a complaint, but it's also an advantage in the sense that it brings people in who can eat in these restaurants and keep these businesses alive. So
right. And I think that's an interesting point that you bring up. You know, what's going on with a lot of that. You know, one of the things I love about the water here is it's the colors, the greens, the blues. You know, you go beautiful. Further up the coast, you don't get that. You know, once you get past Palm Beach, and I guess it has something to do with the Gulf Stream and all that.
Closest point to the Gulf Stream.
Yes. But to get back into the restaurants, you know, we've got so many great restaurants here. We've got so much going on. What are some of your favorite restaurants?
Well, you have given a really wonderful review of Flybird.
Yeah.
And I love that place, and I love Michael who runs it. I will tell you, and Michael, I know you're listening to this. So I worked with him a little bit before he found his location, just, you know, on the real estate side. And we did some stuff. We were thinking around, looking at some things, and nothing really fit his need. And he was explaining his concept to me. I got to tell you, I sort of half got it. You know, I've got this chicken thing and I do it. But then without me, Michael, you found your wonderful location, and we love where you are. It's great. And I am there, as you know, all the time, and the food is fantastic. So I love Flybird because a lot of times I don't want to go in, sit down, really get waited on, sit there for an hour. The prices, I don't know, would you call that fast casual, or what would you call?
Yeah, fast casual.
I mean, it's almost a little bit.
It's a little kind of almost like a fast casual. It's a grab and go.
It's a grab and go, but there are some seats.
So that gives
so we love that.
Casual.
One of our standards has always been J&J's on the Ave. You know, my wife, we like to go. My wife is a huge sports fan, so if there's something going on, we'll sit at the bar and watch whatever game is on.
Right.
And they have a great place for that, and the food's fantastic.
And I think that's just to just kind of go on that. So okay, we've mentioned Michael Salmon, we've mentioned Tina,
Tina and John,
and John over at J&J, Suzanne Parado, who's got Brulee, and
Rose's daughter,
Elizabeth even, which, you know, those guys may be considered big or whatever you want to call them now, but they're not. I mean, compare them to like a Darden or something like that, and they're a small business. They've got like maybe 4 or 5 restaurants. Yeah. You know, Rodney Mayo and those guys, Scott Fraddock, who do a great job with Dada. Yeah. So that's one of the charms, I think, of Delray, and especially Atlantic Avenue, is that all of our restaurants, we don't have those chains. You know, we don't have
What's the most
Carrabba's on the avenue.
What's the most chain thing we have on the avenue? Well, except for we had let the occasional Subway or something sneak in, but they usually don't make it. What's the most chain thing? I don't know.
Well, it was funny because Burger Room and Haagen-Dazs were supposed to go in. I don't know if Haagen-Dazs went in.
Haagen-Dazs went in.
It did go in.
Yeah.
And then Burger Room, they had a whole big thing. I just read about it in restaurant
I don't know what happened
the other day. The whole company kind of imploded. They just, I don't know whether it was hedge fund
I liked
money
Highway Burger, but it's gone. But we have BurgerFi.
BurgerFi is amazing.
So if you go down the avenue, you know, where else do we go? Sazio. I'm a big City Oyster
Vic and
guy.
Angelo's, City Oyster, which is part of Elizabetta's. And now we've got, well, maybe this is another thing we could talk about is Mr. Menon and everything that's coming in. Now we've got a food hall coming in.
Plus Lionfish.
He's got Lionfish, and I don't know if anybody knows this. Maybe this is just he bought Johnny Brown's.
Right.
So he has Johnny Brown's as well. No intention of changing the concept. No, he just wants to basically clean it up a bit. Now, I know the people that are going to be running the food and beverage. They're going to be running the food and beverage at the Ray. And I think the Ray is really going to be something that's going to... It's basically a boutique hotel like you would see in LA, or it's going to be a very well run, 150 rooms, I think, 145, 150 rooms. I was talking to Gary Broidus about this the other day, and he's got some of the leasing on the other side. So I think that whole area of Pineapple Grove,
and we're close to that.
Really,
it gets up closer to the Lake Ida neighborhood, so it'll be right there for a lot of people. And I'm hoping that they have restaurants that'll really be for the locals as well. You know, because everybody goes to Papa's Tapas, everybody goes to Christina's.
Right.
You know, and those are restaurants that we all like. They kind of fall into that category of not the real big restaurants, but ones that we like to go visit. And we were talking about the food court and Lionfish. I just want to tell you a Lionfish story real quick. So that's kind of a cursed location, isn't it? You know, how many places have been in there? But many years ago, it was called Corcoran's. And you may have heard this and you may not, but the guy who built it was in construction, and he didn't get paid for a job up north somewhere in New York. And instead of taking money, they offered him, there was a Tiffany ceiling in the building that he was redoing.
Right.
And he took the Tiffany ceiling, and then he had it in storage. And then he moved to Florida, and he had the opportunity to build a restaurant. And he put the Tiffany ceiling up in the restaurant. And it was in a restaurant called Corcoran's, which is where Lionfish is going to be. And then somebody covered it up, and it had been there for 25 years. And when Menon bought it, David Cook from Hands knew that it was still in there, and we contacted Menon, and they came over, and sure enough, they pulled everything away, and there was this Tiffany ceiling. Now I told them, you know, use it or don't use it in the design, but don't be idiots and break it or do something, because it's actually a Tiffany ceiling. So they were actually making sure that it's protected, and they're sort of using it because light comes through, but I think they're putting something over it. But I just thought it was fascinating that when you're remodeling a building, you find this Tiffany ceiling up in there. It was really cool.
And that kind of, and I'm on the site plan review and appearance board. I think you appointed me. You and Ryan were
one of us. Either I appointed and he. I always forget because the way that works is interesting.
Yeah.
Because you get a list and you're like, you know, who's on the rotation, and you may take the first person and then second or whatever. You know.
And I've gotten a real peek under the hood. And one of the things I've noticed with the products that Menon brings and the stuff that he's doing, you know, like him or not, or think what he's buying up or whatever you may think, he is not afraid to spend money.
No.
And he's not afraid to do like exactly that, the Tiffany ceilings. He saw the value in that.
Right.
He heard everybody's requests.
Right.
And basically was like, okay, I'm going to work with this. I'm going to do this. And my only knock is I see a lot of these hotels that have gone up, and I've gone into a few of them, and I just feel like they're, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but
like the Aloft or the Marriott?
I'm not saying, no, I'm not mentioning any names. I'm just going to say, you know, I go in and it's like, okay, well, this could be
anywhere.
It could be anywhere in USA.
Yep, I agree.
And it's like, okay, you know, and that's one of the things I liked about when I lived in San Diego, for say, or when I lived in, well, even LA, is you've got these boutique hotels that are...
Well, like the Colony.
Correct.
I mean, the Colony, it's been around a long time. I mean, either you're a fan of the Colony or not, but I love it. You know, it's historic. I love historic stuff. But even if you build a new hotel, you can make it real boutique-y, which is like the Ray. The Ray is going to be boutique-y, even though it's pretty heavy on the rooms.
Yeah. 145.
And the design way of that, what they're calling tropical modernism, you know, was a little polarizing to a lot of people because they don't always feel like it's Delray. But you know, some people like it, some people don't.
Wasn't that kind of what they're doing at the Marriott down by the water there? I mean,
No, that's
kind
totally
of West
different.
Indies.
That's like British West Indies,
Yeah.
kind of Key Westy. Yeah, that's everybody. Houses, just listening to our clients, buildings is de-Mediterraneanizing, right? Is that a word? I think I just made up a word.
You just made up a word.
De-Mediterraneanizing. So we in my house, for example, we just replaced a tile roof.
Okay.
With a metal roof. So we kind of did what the Marriott did, so to speak. We took the tile roof and we replaced it with a metal roof.
Okay.
And love the look. Got a discount on my homeowner's insurance for the metal roof, and I also put a fire barrier in there. And the Mediterranean. We were talking about houses earlier.
What kind of a discount do you get on that?
I forget.
I want to know.
Yeah, a little bit of a discount. I forget. I'll tell you exactly. I'll look it up for you and tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's enough to make it. I thought I'm going to do it.
Yeah, there's a little.
Because they're definitely more expensive.
Right.
But if you look at what's coming in, it's not the old Delray Mediterranean. And look in Lake Ida. We were talking about earlier. All these modern homes, love them or hate them. That's what it is. You know.
Right.
What do you think about the modern architecture?
So I would kind of say it's the same thing as what I just said about the hotels. There are some that I see that I like.
Right.
I actually think my brother-in-law, who did on the corner of 9th and 4th over there, did a great job. I know a lot of people weren't fans of it, but once he put up the magnolia and the landscaping and the bamboo, it's a beautiful open layout. It's an absolutely fabulous place to entertain. He's had parties there, and it's just
I have to point out which one that is.
all the windows open, and it's just one big great giant flow through, and that goes back to the kind of people that are moving here. So the people that are moving here are young movers and shakers that entertain. And the funny thing is, they get plugged into the community. Maybe not the community.
Quick.
Yeah, they really do.
Yeah,
they're some of them are on the historical society. Some of them they get involved. Yeah. But they love to entertain. They love to have parties with like 50 or so people. We got invited to some New Year's parties and some Christmas parties, and we had a blast. They're fun, and it's energizing is the way I would put it. And having grown up here in high school and kind of seeing where we're going, I think us, being in the 50s, it's kind of like we kind of are on.
You're bridging the gap.
It's. I know some people that our age that are like, don't stop what we're doing.
So I'm definitely not to stop what we're doing, but I do think everything should be done with taste and with scale and all that. And going back to the hotels and stuff, some of it, you said some of them could look like they could be anywhere. That's kind of a complaint of mine, because I think we could be much more unique, in our architecture. And some of them are a little polarizing, like the Ray. Either you like it or you don't. And
the Ray reminds me a little bit of like older Vegas. Like I look at it and I see like the sketches, and it reminds me of almost like the old Flamingo, like the original. That's just the kind of vibe I got from it when I saw some of the renderings there, which I'm not necessarily against. But as far as Delray as a whole, it's hard to dictate where it's going to go. And I know one of the things we wanted to talk about is historical buildings. What do you feel the place of historical buildings are? And I've heard pluses and minuses with historical. So the pluses are obviously you're keeping the heritage, but like we talk about, you don't want your city can't turn into a museum, and there are some times where a lot of these houses that are getting knocked down around here, it's the smart play.
Right.
You got people that haven't kept up the homes. That the homes are outdated. They do kind of need to be replaced. Where do you draw that line?
Well, it's tough. It's kind of like over improving. Where if the historical home is really unique, where you look and you go, wow, that's a cool house. Now if they're in the historic districts, obviously, if they're what we call a contributing building, which means they're 50 years or older, those are automatically totally historic. Anything in the historic districts is historic, and we have 5 historic districts in the town.
Where are they?
Nassau Street, Marina District, Old School Square Historical Arts District, Delida Park, and West Settlers. Those are the 5. And you can go on the city website or whatever and see where the boundaries are. So I try as hard as I can when I was on the Historic Preservation Board to protect the look and feel of those neighborhoods. And I may cough here. hang on. But those 5 districts are only 1.7% of Delray.
Okay.
So I always look at it like, if you can't protect 1.7% and just kind of keep that quaint, and that's, it shouldn't be that hard, right?
Right.
And they're great contributing, and people love the vibe. People come to Delray and they go, oh man, I love all the old buildings, I love this. Now they love that it's being modernized too, I get that. But it's the interplay between the newer stuff. People love to go into an old building that's been all fixed up, like what they did with the wine bar, which was the tap room.
Right.
It's beautiful, it's all fixed up. They spent a lot of money in there, but it's unique because you're in this old structure.
Yeah.
If it was just a new built shopping center, it could have been in Toledo, it could be anywhere, right? So I will tell you, and I know you're a big one on metrics and looking at the price per square foot and all that kind of stuff. If you dial in on the sales of the properties in the residential neighborhoods, we get a higher price per square foot for restored historic homes than for any other type of property.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, if they're cool, like people just, I love that, it's charming, and they just buy it.
Yeah. I've seen them go in the 6s.
Yeah.
Well, Noreen and Amy just did that deal on that corner house.
Yeah.
And that one was, I think, in the 6s, high 5s, which
Yep.
that's what some of these bigger brand
ones
new
go
stuff
for.
is going for.
Absolutely. And so we want to protect those 5 historic districts. We're also looking at bringing forth a little bit of expansion, or maybe a couple of new districts. And I can talk a little bit about that, but it's really in the working stages, like Frog Alley, maybe Osceola Park. There's some areas that weren't really protected. Now, one of the things about that, like we've tried 2 times to make Swinton Avenue actually historic. But the neighbors, the homeowners have to say, yes, I want it. And everybody just a lot of people turn it down.
Why would they turn it down?
Well, they turn it down because they're afraid that the Historic Preservation Board or people will say, you can't paint your house that color,
Right.
you can't do that. But I always, when people have that fear, I take them maybe to the Marina District or to where some people have done like really exciting projects, and I show them, you can do something like this, and they go, oh, now I see, I get it.
They see the value in it.
Like the guy at 1420 Swinton who bought the really big Clintmore house, the big colonial that sits back.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a 10,000 square foot expansion on the back of that house. So he bought that house on that big lot. And here's the beautiful thing. He gets a 10-year tax abatement on his expansion through the historic preservation tax credits from the state. So for example, if you had a 4,000 square foot house and you built a 10,000 square foot addition on it, most people would now be reassessed at 14,000 square feet. The tax appraiser would come in. Not a historic home. If it's designated historic, you get a waiver or whatever on that extra building, because what they're saying is you've preserved a historic home and we value that as a state. And it's a 10-year waiver, and California has a 20. And we're actually trying to, I've lobbied a couple of times to try to expand ours to 20. Because you buy a house, it takes you 3 or 4 years to get it all done. And then you only get 6 years of tax free. So I think 20 is actually fair. But so a lot of these ones where you see where they've done incredible renovations, like in the Marina District, they're taking very strong advantage of that tax advantage. And these are smart people, right?
Right.
They know what they're doing. And there's also a new, I don't know if it's new, but it's a national tax credit where they can even get more.
Right.
So not only is their value the highest, they get to retain the tax level of the original house before they fixed it up, which is phenomenal.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what, and I'm just kind of thinking off the cuff here, wouldn't the danger be, especially along Swinton, is, some of the houses there are not really on the level of like a marina home. And, the danger might be is investors coming in and buying houses out from people who may not have the income or may not have the education to understand the benefits.
Right.
And then an investor coming in and improving the property.
And doing whatever with it.
And doing whatever.
We're seeing that. We have the real modern one next to what we call the DeWitt House, which is the blue Virginia farmstead house. And, on Swinton. And people look at the juxtaposition and it's a little jarring for some people. But that's why.
Where's that house?
So, about the 11 block or something.
Okay.
There's the what looks like an old farmstead house that sits back. It's at 1110 North Swinton. And then to the left of it, it used to have an octagonal guest house that later got
Yes,
split off and sold.
yes, yeah.
And now they built a modern house there.
With no windows in the front, right?
See, that's just it. You know, one of the things I don't like about modern is everybody talks about I want to live in this like village, you know, new urbanism, and I'm not saying it's all modern, but we've had a couple of projects come to in Delray, and all you see from the road is a garage.
Right.
You know, we in Lake Ida, you know, everybody sits out on their front porch or they hang out at the pool in the back, but everybody walks around and we're all friendly. That look of just garages is a very cold, non-social look.
Right. So how do you regulate that, I guess, is the
Well,
question.
we have some ideas onto how you do it, and one of the ways is there can be some land development regulations that say, you know, you're trying to break up the elevation on the front, so the garages kind of have to move to the back around the side. You just can't have a big flat elevation.
Gotcha.
And so, you know, some towns that are really embracing this new urbanism, like they even require like front porches and stuff. But that's like tradition or celebration. That's the real hardcore, you know. But you know, we've all kind of abandoned that, and you know, I sit out in my front. It's like a little patio, and where I happen to live, everybody walks around. It's kind of a little social area, and it's fun.
I gotta say, Delray Lakes is probably, we know a number of people there. The
It's
Cadells, Pattersons, Perlmans.
Yep.
It's just a really
I know them all,
a who's
so.
who of Delray that lives back there, and it was kind of, I guess, the original PUD that kind of came in.
I think it was one of the first ones. Yeah, it's the
yeah.
only gated community east of 95. And the funny thing is, for someone who loves historic homes, I ended up in that. But I will tell you, I had.
All right, you're not getting in this show. Sorry.
Yeah, we got a new star. You know, so at the time when we bought that house, you know, I had my mom's house on Swinton, my grandparents' house on Dixie Boulevard, some other houses in the family that I was kind of having to deal with sometimes. And you know, my wife didn't want another project, right? Mm-hmm. So we looked at this pretty new house. You're not gonna have to deal with too much. And our kids were going to Trinity, really close.
Yeah, very close.
And I will tell you, it was less expensive than over here. We looked at a lot of stuff over here, and I was hoping to live, you know, really close, like within a few blocks of my mom, who's at, you know, on Swinton, and that just wasn't going to happen at that time in our life, you know. And so we bought in Delray Lakes. We found it. We have loved it ever since. I'm on a cul-de-sac with a pool across the street from me and a lake, and you can pull bass this big out of the lake, and it's just been a great place to raise our boys, and it's a lot of friendly neighbors. Everybody walks around. You can find if you go out for a walk at any night, you can find a gathering of people just standing around with a beer in their hand, you know. It's
and then you got mature oak trees all through there.
So
great
the
shade.
city required those oak trees, you know, and it was they kind of, we have to work on them because the roots want to tear the sidewalk up.
Yeah, they buckle us out. That happens everywhere,
Yeah,
man.
so
so it's great area. So I guess what we wanted to cover, and I think we've covered a lot of what we wanted to, but.
Oh, see, I got my shirt on.
So yeah, if anybody want to know, the reason why Bill is so casually dressed and not his normal spiffy self, he's got his spiffy black T-shirt on. No, it's not Henry Rollins. It's his son's band. This is Track 9, and I listened to these guys today as I was driving around, and this is like 80s rock. I mean, I'm thinking Live. If you guys remember the band Live. You know, sometimes people give you CDs, they want you to play it, and you're like, yeah. But I can genuinely say, if you like rock and if you like 80s rock, you are going to love this CD. And this is your boy, right?
It's my son. He wrote the songs, and he's the lead singer. And they have a Instagram, Track 9. It's just, I think it's at Track 9. I think that's it. But check them out.
Yeah,
They're
check
fun.
them out.
And
it really is.
And I'm wearing the swag and everything today. So they just were actually shooting a video yesterday and today.
Really?
Yeah. And so they're excited. It's a song that's not even on this one.
Yeah. And you know, we were talking, this kind of brings up another thing. We've been talking about the village by the sea and historical and what we want to see. Well, your son Will, and let's see, there's Blake Burns, who's Dan Burns' kid.
Yep.
Dan Burns' Oldsmobile, who did a lot for this city and kept it afloat through some really hard times. Kept the July 4th fireworks thing going, paid for it out of his pocket.
Right.
Article Sound System,
ASS.
ASS.
Can't say the whole word, but we love some
who just did a
ASS.
free show down by Old School Square.
Yep.
God bless them, Chris.
Fantastic.
And Logan, and I'm sorry I forget the other gentleman's name, but I know Chris and I know Logan. I have an interview with Logan on a Brews with Brewer if you want to check it out.
That's a good one. Check it out.
She's good. And just there's a great little vibrant music scene that goes on.
We have a really good music scene, and we always have. But it's one of the things with having our entertainment district. People want live music, right? And whether you're at Finnegan's or you're at the Colony or you're
Crazy
at
Uncle Mike's,
Third and Third or Crazy Uncle Mike's, Tin Roof. So people want music, and so that gives these guys an outlet to go to. I'll tell you a great place you can hear a lot of up and comers too is it's Boca technically, but Rockin' Angels down on Dixie. It's a crazy little place, kind of not that far from Dixie Seafood.
Yeah.
But they do open mic nights, and people come, and you go, "Wow, that guy's really good." You just can go listen to him, and it's an interesting spot. And the guys from Track 9, that's actually where a lot of them met. And but they have a great sound system that you can just come and plug in and go. Yep, that's all you need. And but yeah, we have a lot of. I mean, think about Boston's for years and the reggae nights and all that. We've always had a great music scene.
Yeah, it's very cool, and it's
very cool.
I think that a lot of times we think of our city as very kind of, I want to say one-dimensional. Well, let's just say 3 dimensions, and there really is a lot more going on. And God bless this city. I moved back in 2010. Hadn't stepped foot in Florida for 30 years.
Wow, 30 years.
30 years I was out of the state. I was in New York, LA, Las Vegas. And when I came back, I was in Miami, and I immediately fell in love with the beach and the water again. And then when I came back to Delray, I just absolutely fell in love with it.
It's like, I need to be back here. Plus, you have a heritage here,
I wasn't sure how I was going to be received. I wasn't sure how, because, we just kind of left in the middle of the night. My parents got divorced, and it just kind of happened. And just to touch base and with so many people and to be welcomed back. And I can't say that I'm a fan of everything that's going on in this town. And you and I don't agree on everything. We've had some very interesting conversations, but I think as long as there's mutual respect and understand that people, I think people, especially with this polarization that seems to be going on in our country in general right now, it's like, if you don't agree with me across the board, then screw you. I don't want anything to do with you. And I just think that's really unfair. And I think with this city, exactly, there are going to be things that we may not like. There's going to be things that we do like. Yeah. But the one thing that you can count on in life is change. And
everything's going to change. And if you're not growing, you're dying.
That's it.
So I want to keep our little village by the sea. And a lot of times when I talk about the village, I really mean culturally, right? Like how we're all tight, right? And even, sometimes.
Well, let me ask you, how do you think that you keep that?
Well, I think you keep it through community connectiveness, and you keep it through really reaching out to other communities and letting communities be what they've been. You think about our northwest, southwest areas, and how they've we just had Coco Golf win the Australian Open, heritage,
awesome. That's great
stuff.
Absolutely.
And our family's known their family for 5 decades, and. But we want to maintain. We have several different little areas within a city. I always call it like a jambalaya, but you got to respect the jambalaya. Respect how the different areas operate. It's the joke that people come down from up north and going to tell us how to run everything.
Right.
It's funny when I first met you. You were over. It wasn't Falcon House. It was Soho. Is that right?
Soho is Ceviche first.
Ceviche. Okay.
Yeah. When they came in.
Because I didn't know you when we were younger, and then I kind of met you and. People, I said, John Brewer. I said, he's a local. I didn't really know him. And everybody said, yeah, he's a really good guy. I mean, so you just said it was nice how you were received, like, kind of brought back into the fold. And, since I didn't know you, I said, do you know this guy? And I was, I remember just being in there and you saying a couple things. And that's the kind of town where you're received and brought back in. And, we've, as a town, as we've grown, we've always been very accepting of new people coming in. Think of it if you lived in some little town in the middle of nowhere. You have one new person moving, it'd be like, who are you? But we know that there's people coming and going all the time, right? And they play with your kids in Little League and they do everything. And that's part of our culture, so that's.
I think Delray is that interesting position where, and I do a lot of work in Fort Lauderdale commercially, real estate wise, but it's big enough where you get the interest, and we get a lot of the amenities of, we have a big city. We get great restaurants, great food and beverage, great entertainment,
gyms,
beautiful homes. And then it's small enough though where you can walk down the street and 5-6 people. Everywhere you go, you meet people, and that to me is the charm.
Had breakfast at the Green Owl this morning. I don't know if we mentioned them earlier.
No.
But I was sitting there talking to a couple of folks that just were visiting from New York, and then one of my high school friends walked in. I was at that long table, slid down there and talked to him for a while. Harvey Brown, give out Harvey Brown Insurance a little shout out.
Sure.
And but we love that, right? That you can sit there and talk to folks, and you run into them, and that's one of the reasons I came back. I was gone for a long time as well, and I.
Oh, were you? I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. I went to University of Florida, and then graduated. My first job was Atlanta, Boston, Minneapolis, Tampa, back to here. There was kind of an in between in Tampa, but I was in the corporate world for about 20-ish plus years, but my family had some businesses here, so I would kind of come and go, and it was really funny. Some people. There's people that you only run into them every couple of years. And so I would run into some people every couple of years. And so they never thought I left, because I would be here just on, on a trip, and I haven't lived here. And I go, oh, I see you every now, because we did visit a lot, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it's fun to have watched the growth. We all remember when there were 2 restaurants on the avenue, and it all kind of built up. I remember when, 32 first went in, and things were starting to happen. The first thing that happened, from what I really remember, is the little coffee shop where Spot Coffee eventually went in.
Okay.
That was now, what else was just there? There was Spot, what was that? Something else. Blue something. But I remember going down, there was nothing going on the avenue. And I got in there, I got a cup of coffee, and I was like, walked out in front, and I looked one way down the avenue. You're looking right across at Old School Square, looked the other way, and I was like, wow. We got something in Delray. We got like a coffee shop, and it was just awesome. When I was in high school, I worked at Hands.
Yeah.
And actually high school, and when I went to.
I try to shop there whenever I can.
I go there all the time. I try to tell people all the time, buy your stuff at Hands, because they have everything you need.
Yeah. They've got a great selection for artists, calligraphy, all that kinds of stuff.
But also, actually, any office supply you need that they would have, but. I used to deliver. My job there was to deliver. Office supplies in a van with a 6-foot pencil on the top.
I think I remember that.
I think they may still have one of them. They might have taken them all off by now. But we would drive around, and people would see you, and oh, you're the guy with the 6-foot pencil. Yeah. And you can't. There's no. All
right, there's a lot of jokes there, but
there's no real good comeback to that. But but it was a lot of fun.
So my dad and my mom, when we moved here, my mom was a waitress, bartender, and my dad was a chef. And do you remember the old patio Delray with the roof that opened up? Yeah. That was my dad. He was the executive chef there. And all the guys that worked for him were, from Atlantic Avenue area, went to high school with one of the kids. Then he also worked at La Petite Chalet. If you remember La Petite Chalet.
Oh, yeah, that was fantastic.
My mom waitressed at Gentleman Jim's.
Strebs.
She bartended at Boca Chica Country Club.
Tropical Acres? No Tropical Acres?
No, she didn't do Tropical Acres.
Okay.
What was the one on the water? Bushes. So a lot of my friends, like Tom Tordonia and all that, they waited tables there, but I never did. I wound up working for my dad when he tried to open his own restaurant, which was where Riggins is right now, which I went to the other day because we're trying to get crabs for tomorrow.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, it's so where else did he work? He worked, Patio Delray. He was the executive chef there.
Well, Patio Delray, that's like
what's there now? Where is
is it Northern Trust?
Is that the Northern Trust building?
Northern Trust.
Okay.
We've got Blue Anchor next door. So,
okay, Oh, wow, that's where it was. I've always been trying to pinpoint exactly where it was, but
I'm pretty sure I'm right there. Blue Anchor. I mean, Northern Trust.
The Blue Anchor's got an interesting history I didn't know about. They actually moved a bar from England, right? UK.
There was a bar that had been disassembled in London, and a guy bought it, all the disassembled parts. And Digby Bridges, you may or may not know Digby, but he was an architect in Ocean Ridge. He did the Ocean Ridge, that Dutch colonial looking, their town center, what do you call it? City Hall. And but he was a big architect in town. Did a lot of beautiful houses. He redesigned and put together the Blue Anchor. Wow. With all those parts, you know, and it wasn't actually the whole thing moved, but all those front walls are like whole complete pieces, and you know, stuff like that. Cool, I love that place.
Good stuff. Good stuff, man. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time
all good.
You know, wishing you the best.
I know I'm not as funny as Wayne, you know, or as cute as Logan, but this is my first one.
You're a hybrid.
So I'll go watch this one and go, man, I could have done a lot better. So can I come on again next week?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Wayne's already like, I want to do another one. I want to do another one. Which, you know, you can't imagine that with Wayne. He's such an introvert.
No, he's
an institution, man. I mean, anybody who's bartended at the same place for 18 years.
Is it 18 years?
Yeah. You know, at that place, he's legend, man. He's the stuff that he's fabric of what Delray is. You know,
there's a couple of guys, you know, that are around,
and so are you. And so is John Miller. You guys are, you know, part historians. You've been here since the beginning, and you know the people that I see out there that are always chiming in on Facebook, Linda Oxford, and
the positive people we're talking about.
Well, you know what? Even the negative people. You know,
negative people. Are,
why not?
Just
you know,
go away,
everybody's
negative
got
people.
an opinion, and you know, I think it's not that you don't agree, it's how you don't agree. You know what I mean? There's ways to not agree with each other. You don't have to be mean-spirited. Don't assume because somebody doesn't agree with you that they're coming from a malicious place.
I always try to listen to everybody, and I sort of sit there and go, you know, well, you know, maybe they have a point, you know, whatever, but you have your opinion, but sometimes you can just agree to disagree, but the people who just snipe at people consistently, you know, the funny thing is I tell all the people I post a lot on social media, I don't always read it.
Right.
Because I go like, oh, you know, this event's going on, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
It's not like I'm reading everybody's comments, you know.
Well, I remember like the snark factor definitely gets high, and it's easy to do that when you're sitting at your keyboard at home.
Keyboard warriors.
You know, you don't have to look people in the face when you do it. You know, and I've done it, and the only reason why I'm saying that is because I've done it before.
Yeah.
You know, somebody makes a comment, and you're like, you know, screw them. I'm gonna. You know,
yeah.
You know, it's like the meme of the monkey going crazy, tapping, and on the computer. You want to do that.
So there's a funny cartoon.
So I think what I'm trying to say is I think there's a great thing about social media in that it connects everybody.
And there's a
it's a double-edged sword
because
it's like what is it, The Hobbit or whatever. That the ring can be used for good or it can be used for evil.
Precious,
you know?
my precious,
exactly.
So I think that's very true. You know, and it's just that tension of energy that people need to jump in and say something bad about somebody or something. That I really think you in the very beginning mentioned kind of the division and tension in the country. I think social media has a lot to do with it.
Sure.
I think because people are either saying this or this, and there's nothing in between.
Everything's become, even restaurants have become polarized now. I actually read an article the other day where it's like if you want a successful restaurant, either you're going gluten-free, hyper-local, totally sustainable, organic, antibiotic, or you're like fried ice cream on a waffle,
right.
You know, with a side of bacon. Those are the two. It's either people want to go one way or they want to go the other way.
Well, it's like, I mean, people come up with all these special, you know, I need a gluten-free this, and then, oh, I'm never coming here again because you don't have whatever. So
my favorite in restaurants, when I ran restaurants, was somebody who come in and say, listen, I want this fixed this way, but can you take that out, and can I get this on the side, and can I get that over there?
Special orders.
And then you deliver it to them, and they like it, and say, I don't like it. And so, well, you didn't let us cook it the way we cook it.
Yeah.
You know,
you want it good.
We spent a lot of time coming up with this recipe. Our chef's a pretty good chef. He kind of knows what he's doing. If you let him cook for you, you'll have a good experience. If not, you know,
let me tell you, I'm not picky.
Stay home and cook your own meals. I'm sorry to say that.
I'm one of those guys that a lot of times says, you know, how do you want that? And I say, well, how does the chef recommend?
There you go.
And you always win.
That's it.
You always win. How does the chef? What does the chef think should be on the side of this? Do I have to pick? Oh, what is the chef like? Or, you know, you always win because they know food. They know what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
And you know, and if it's something you don't typically order, maybe you're being a little adventurous. But
that's it.
So
man. Get outside your comfort zone. Thank you so much, Bill. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be on Brews with Brewer.
That's right.
Awesome.
Another one in the can. Thanks,
another one in the can. Cheers.